we replace the need for an in-house AI engineering team. We kind of supercharge your existing team, your product managers, your engineers. They're familiar with how to integrate, an API and build UI around, the results from, an AI agent. But we're not asking them to figure out the most advanced techniques around prompt engineering or guardrails. People who try to make one chatbot to do 50 different things, it just doesn't work. And you can sort of chain them together to do more complex things. You mentioned you have 100 podcast guests you want to research at once, and you can run a job that will go through all of these automatically. And we see enablement go, through the roof and usage go through the roof. But if you just have one user join and they're just a PM prototyping things, but they can't prioritize engineers implementing it, then you're not getting things into production, and that's where things start to slow down.
Today on the AI Chopping Block, Tyler Postle, co-founder and CEO of Voker AI, a YC company helping SMBs ship AI agents without hiring $1 million AI team. Tyler previously helped bootstrap an e-commerce business to $100 million in revenue and built a day trading ad engine managing $2 million in ad spend every month. This guy is ruthlessly ROI driven. In this episode, we'll cover how to go from idea to production in minutes, the guardrails that reduce hallucinations, A/B testing for prompts, and why SMBs can outship enterprises right now. He even built an AI agent live on our show. Let's get into it.
Hey, everyone. I got Tyler here from Voker. Tyler is building a product that helps you push out AI agents quickly, set them up, whether you're technical or not technical. But you know what, Tyler, maybe you can tell me, what is it that you're building? Who is it for? What problem does it solve? Why does it matter now more than ever?
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks, David, for having me on. Really excited to chat. I'm Tyler. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Voker. We're a Y Combinator company, and we're an AI platform for SMBs who don't have in-house AI engineering teams. So the long and short of it is product managers, operations folks, business folks, they're the subject matter experts often when it comes to, their software or their workflow that needs to be enhanced by AI, whether that's through an automation or adding intelligence. But the problem is today, most companies have their engineers building redundant infrastructure. Everyone has to stand up the same integrations with all the LLM providers. And then you're asking your engineers to write prompts about user experiences that they're not close to. So what Voker does is put the power of building AI agents, AI workflows, and automations in the hands of the subject matter experts in a collaborative tool that they can do through UI with no code. And then the engineers can implement and integrate those AI agents into their software through really easy one-click API deployments. And so it's a collaborative experience between product, business, and engineering folks.
Got it. And so I've talked to a lot of founders that are building what sounds like something similar, but for restricted industries, because oftentimes this AI agents can hallucinate and stuff like that. Who's your ideal customer? Do you have, problems that you run into where the agents kind of go off the track and, I don't know, do crazy stuff?
Yeah. There's always a way to hack any system, right? So it can happen, but that's a lot of what we invest our time into. There's a lot of things you can do behind the scenes. I don't know how technical I should get around these things, but as the simple answer to how to put guardrails is sometimes just prompt engineering. Sometimes it is using structured outputs. Sometimes it's using LLMs as a judge. Or different types of models. But that's a lot of complexity that you ask an engineer who probably has a core engineering product to build for the company they're working for. That's a lot for them to learn and figure out. And so we kind of handle all of that in the background, and we give a UI for these, less technical folks who are closer to the problem to configure these guardrails without needing to write code or integrate with different systems.
Got it. So basically what you're telling me is instead of hiring an AI engineer that could cost me $500,000 or $1 million a year or $100 million a year,
those bonuses keep going up.
I could use your product technically to kind of get up to speed quickly with pumping out AI agents. But what's an actual use case that companies have used your product for?
Great question. And first of all, yep, that was a great way to describe it. We replaced the need for an in-house AI engineering team. We, you know, we kind of supercharge your existing team, your product managers, your engineers. They're familiar with how to integrate, an API and build UI around, the results from, an AI agent, but we're not asking them to figure out the most advanced techniques around prompt engineering or guardrails. In terms of use cases, we see a trend with most companies and customers that work with us that they start with an internal tool. Voker can power all sorts of AI agent or AI workflow automation use cases. But most companies, because AI is so new, they want to start with something internal because they can measure the ROI, because they know if I'm replacing this amount of manual work, this is how much money it's saving me. And it's not in front of customers. And so they get to put their toes in the water with AI. Then they graduate. Once they start to see that working, they graduate to customer facing chatbots, or it doesn't always have to be a chat interface. It might be a button that powers, some sort of analysis for them. But to answer your question directly around use cases, the places where we see a ton of value are when our customers can differentiate in their market. So let's say they're an HR tech platform. We have customers in that space, or veterinary and pet tech, kind of in the healthcare space. They all have their own software systems, whether that's telehealth to connect pet owners to veterinarians, or that's, improving recruiting services through the software. But they want to differentiate and innovate and leverage AI, but they don't have huge teams. And so Voker comes in and we make it easy for them to build those features and get them into production quickly. So one use case would be in the veterinarian and pet space. It might be automating post call notes. Vets have to write very specific, write-ups around, what they talked to the patient about, what they prescribed, all of that stuff. And so instead of having the vet spend 15 to 20 minutes doing that, you can have an AI summarize the transcript notes in the right format with our guardrails. And then the vet can quickly edit and approve it. I'll pause there. There's a bunch of other use cases we could share, but
is there a way you can show me how this works? I'm just curious.
Definitely. Yeah, let me share my screen. I'll pull up the Voker platform. So what I'm going to share with you is a sales demo account, but this is illustrative of, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, here we go.
Great.
Let's see the demo.
I'll jump into the Voker platform and share my screen.
Oh, here we go. Nice.
Great. All right. Well, where we've landed now is the mission control of Voker. This is just a sales demo account, but if you were to log into your own Voker instance, whether you're a product manager, engineer, executive, because they're always curious to see what the AI prototypes look like, this is where you'd land. Each of these tiles is what we call a Voker. It could be an AI agent or a workflow automation, but they're all designed by you to do a very specific task. People who try to make one chatbot to do 50 different things, it just doesn't work. AI works the best when you give it specific guardrails and specific instructions, and then you can sort of chain them together to do more complex things. I'll show you how to create one of these yourself. Okay. We'll go into the Voker flow, which is essentially a wizard that helps you get set up real quick. Right. You were mentioning to me before the call, David, there's something you guys are building in-house. If you're willing to share anything about that, we could see if we can build that on Voker. Otherwise, I can come up with another use case. But you're mentioning your co-founder is working on something.
Yeah. We have a few different things. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Maybe I can give you an example. So one example is that, for each one of these interviews, we need to prepare. And so I need someone to do research on each speaker. So the email that you actually got from me was done by one of our staff members at Homebase. And so she goes into ChatGPT, provides it, your information. We have a prompt, and we run the prompt. It fills out the information. And so ideally, once we have the email created, we need someone to send that email to you. So I don't know is that something that...
So to give a sense of where Voker lives and where we don't, we really focus specifically on making it easy to build intelligent and highly optimized, with guardrails and everything, AI agents to get them into production. We don't today have any native integrations. So like you could build the research component, but in terms of sending the email, you'll then have to your engineers would take the response from Voker and then plug into some service, like let's say Zapier even, to send out an email, something like that. So we can totally prototype that sort of research part and drafting the email. Why don't we start with that? So I'm going to give it a goal. So I'm going to say, given information or given the name of the founder and their company's website, research the podcast guest through the internet, and prepare, what would you want? Like a list of interview questions, a email. What would you want to contain in the email?
Just list of interview questions and like interesting things they've done. I mean, I can share my screen share. Like we use ChatGPT for this and does a pretty good job. Sometimes it hallucinates, but
okay. Let's start with this and then we can
let's just keep it simple for now.
Interesting things they've done and a 2-liner about their business. I'm just going to say business to be sent. Let's just leave it at that. And then we'll do the email part. Like I said, would be a separate integration. The target audience is going to be founders of tech companies. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. And then we really my past experience was the first role I held was in data science, machine learning, analytics for an e-commerce startup. We grew that business to 100 million in revenue, and that was all bootstrapped, no VC money. And so actually building ROI positive use cases is really important to us. And so we try to imbue in the product, what's the value you're actually getting out of this? There's a lot of hype around AI. And so we want to actually measure and focus the Voker around specific key outcomes. So what would you say in this case, is the purpose of this agent or this automation?
To save me time of going into ChatGPT and doing this manually one by one for each guest. Essentially, we have a spreadsheet of speakers. So if it can do the research for us based on that spreadsheet, that would be amazing.
Cool. Okay, then I'll check off efficiency and time savings as the key business metrics. Then we'll hit next, and the final step of the wizard is just what's the response format we want. If you were building a chatbot, you might choose plain text. If you're writing a blog post, you might choose Markdown. I'm going to go with JSON, which is a structured output, because we want the guardrails and we want to generate an email body probably and a subject line that you can then pass through an API to another system like Zapier to send off the email itself.
Okay.
We're going to generate the Voker. You could have built this yourself from scratch. When we land on the configuration page, you'll see, but this just saves us a bit of time and really tunes the configuration for us. This page we've landed on is now your Voker. It's the podcast guest research helper is what it named it. And you can see that it's filled out some configuration. This is where, a product manager or a business user could come in and build their prototype quickly without having to integrate with LLM API providers and set up infrastructure. So it generated instructions for us. It said, research the podcast guest using the founder's name and company website, prepare a list of interview questions, achievements, and a 2-liner about their business, provide this in a structured output. The first part of the configuration we want to focus on is the inputs. Because you're going to run this programmatically, you're going to continually send, a founder's name and a company website, repeatably. And so the wizard picked those things out of our instructions and created inputs here. Let's say we also wanted to add the I don't know, industry that the company.
Yeah, we add the LinkedIn link. I don't know if that's
okay. Yeah, LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn URL. In this case, it probably makes the most sense, in a text format. But we do have other input types, numbers, Boolean, image, and these are things that engineers really love because you can make your system more reliable by typing variables instead of just saying any type of input. So now that we have our inputs ready, we can scroll down and look at the tools section. Here, we probably want to enable the web search tool because we're going to have the Voker go to the internet and do some research for us. We don't really need this RAG knowledge upload. This would be if we had a company policy, or if you had instructions written up in a Google Doc or a PDF of this is how we write these emails like, an SOP or a procedure. That could be something you upload, but for now we'll skip that. You can also integrate with your own internal APIs, but that's more advanced and we won't talk about that at this moment. We can choose the type of model that we want. So quality, speed, reasoning, long context. In the background, we integrate with all sorts of LLM providers from OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok with a Q, Perplexity, etc. And we select the best model based on your configuration. There's also the added bonus of fallbacks. If one API goes down, we can swap over to a similar model for you so that you don't have any downtime for yourself or your customers. And finally, the guardrails. So this is the output structure. This is what we're asking the LLM and the Voker to spit out for us. And so here we've asked for interesting facts. We've asked for interview questions and a business description. If you didn't like what the wizard generated, you can easily change it. Like it says summary of 2 lines. Maybe we want to make this 1 line. We can just edit that. I'll pause there. Any questions so far?
No, it looks good.
Great. And now just to test this out, we can go to the right side and test that, do a test execute. So we're going to say the founder's name is Tyler Postle. The company website is Voker.ai, and the LinkedIn URL is, linkedin.com/in/ I think this is how you do it, Tyler Postle. And we're going to hit run. We'll see what it does. You can see that it's running some internet searches. It Googled or it researched, not just Google, Tyler Postle Voker AI achievements. And it also researched and it found some references, which you could see if you were trying to troubleshoot. And then it also did some interesting facts research. I'll close those. This is just a little bit of the behind the scenes of what the AI is doing. And finally, you can see it gave us the 3 outputs we asked for in a structure with guardrails. So interesting facts, interview questions, and business description. I won't read these out for you, but essentially your workflow would be, you read this, you're like, well, I like it, but I want it to be shorter, and then you can come over here and modify instructions. You can add more guardrails to the output, or you can chat with it's beta, but you can chat with our Copilot and just explain, hey, make this sentence shorter, and it'll go and update the configuration for you. So this is the workflow that a subject matter expert would do. So a product manager, a marketing person, a salesperson, our customers bring in folks across the business to build these. And once you're happy with this first iteration, maybe you run it a few times. Maybe you want to do a bulk run. You mentioned you have like 100, podcast guests you want to research at once. You can do a CSV upload of like those inputs that you need. So the founder's name and the website. And then you can run, a job that will go through all of these automatically instead of you having to click run. Final step, once you're happy with these results, you go to the deploy tab. And this is when you want to put it into production. You create a new deployment. I'm going to say V1. And this generates a unique API endpoint for this specific Voker with the inputs that you configured. And it's just a code snippet that you hand to your engineer. So you say, hey, engineer, when I click a button on this page, I want you to run this Voker. And the results it gives you back, I want you to go email off to the founder. I'll pause there. That was a lot all at once. Any questions you have?
Sounds interesting. It's like potentially you found a customer in us.
Amazing.
But I bet you get this a lot. Also, is what are the chances that it messes up and it sends you an email of another founder? Like, how do we prevent that? Because for what we do, it's okay, at least at this stage. Like, it's not a big deal, we messed up. But for bigger companies, that could be a huge deal, right? Like so how do you, safeguard, these workflows from messing up?
Great question. No, that's a really good question. And it's what we spend a lot of time on. Number one, we've learned we need to, it's our job to help educate our customers because the industry is changing, capabilities of AI are changing every day. So we help explain, this is a use case that's good versus bad. For example, on internet search, if you want to scrape every, mattress product on the internet and get their relative prices, it's not going to work well because it's really hard to do web scraping behind, what if they have a paywall behind, in front of the product or something like that. So step one is we explain to our customers, what is a good fit for LLMs today. That doesn't mean it won't be possible in a few months. And when that new model comes out, we'll integrate it and you'll get the value of, us adding it to the platform. But we explain kind of to folks like, hey, this use case you're trying to do, if it's, let's say, a legal review, maybe you shouldn't use it in place of a lawyer, but it could help them like highlight sections of the contract that are like a challenge. The second thing is once you understand like where AI fits and where it doesn't, or to what % of that problem it can solve, then you just really need to do an iterative process. I come from like I said, the data science and machine learning space, and like everything with, analytics is experimentation. You A/B test, you try different prompts, etc. The problem is today you're asking engineers to do that. And if you have a small team, like you don't have an in-house experimentation infrastructure for testing LLMs. So we also provide that. Not only can you, I'll just throw my screen up because it's easier to see visually. Not only can you, iterate and test by running this, this test execute or doing bulk run. That might be one way you check like, hey, I'm going to run this against 100 examples and see how well it does, right? But you can also run A/B experiments. I have to make a second deployment. So let's say that I change one thing here, like I'm going to delete the LinkedIn URL as like an input because maybe that's throwing it off. And now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to deploy a new version 2, no LinkedIn. Once I deploy that, you can tell your engineer, to either integrate with version 1 or version 2, or you could run an experiment. So you come to the experiment tab, you create a new experiment, you say LinkedIn versus no LinkedIn, and then you select the two versions. So V1 and V2, and you can kind of decide how much traffic to give each one. The truth is, anyone who tells you that like whatever guardrails they have will 100% solve every problem, they're lying. We put a lot of work into reducing, those kind of errors that you meant or that you mentioned. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to go through an iterative process to get like the exact result you want. And so we try to make it really easy to do that.
Got it. Sounds good. How did you end up building this startup? Like what was like the aha moment that got you here?
Great question. I've been interested in so I studied physics in undergrad. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and I was a device physics researcher in a chem lab. Seems like, okay, I just see your video's frozen, but do I look okay to you?
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Okay, great. As I was saying, I was a physics researcher. I got interested in entrepreneurship, joined that e-commerce startup that I mentioned. And my background had been in data science and traditional machine learning. So like I led teams where we were doing everything from linear regression to clustering, all of these things that preceded this LLM boom. And so when my co-founder and I, who have been colleagues and worked together on various companies and consulting projects, when LLMs came out, we realized like, oh, this is really exciting because we've been in this space for a while. We saw the transformation. But we're also pretty pragmatic people, I'd say. And there's a lot of people who kept saying like, coders are dead. Like you're going to replace engineers with AI. And we're a little bit more like, I think it's a really helpful tool. There's going to be some use cases it's really good at. And there's some that it's not. Like you shouldn't use an LLM to predict, weather forecasts. That's still, you should use a different type of traditional model. And so we thought that people were still going to have an issue getting these things into production. And we didn't think that every company should have to hire AI engineers to build infrastructure to get the value out of LLMs.
Got it. Sounds interesting. By the way, I was one of those people, and my post went viral a couple of times. I said like, "Oh my God, it's over for engineers," but it was just to test out content. Like I didn't actually mean it. But yeah, people were all over.
And we could be wrong. Who knows? We could be wrong, and maybe we're out of job. I just see that like, there's still people who don't know how to use Google Sheets or insert whatever technology, right? There's always going to be this curve of learning. And we really want to serve those businesses who like SMBs are the companies that can probably get, especially growing SMBs, they can get the most value out of LLMs, but they're not going to prioritize hiring like a full team of AI engineers. The enterprise companies can afford it, but not these mid-market growing companies.
Yeah. How do you go about like selling your product? Because I feel like it's like you kind of sell it to, like you almost have to sell it to the say product managers, and then he has to sell it to the engineer, and then
Yep.
if that doesn't work, you have to go in and sell it for them.
Yeah.
Like, is the sales cycle kind of tricky with what you're building?
It is. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tricky, and this is my first time being like in a sales role, really. Right, I was doing a lot more operational stuff. I was running that ecom business near the end of my time there. I've led data science and analytics teams, but I haven't been in like a sales function before. So we're still figuring it out. But what we're starting to see a lot of success with as of the last like couple of months is number one, the product demos are really great because really the product works and you can actually like build something live on a call that they're then like, whoa, I want to plug that in tomorrow. We've learned that being multi-threaded is really important. We need to bring in the product manager and the engineer. It's not like a sales tactic. Like people don't love to like when we ask like, well, can you bring in the engineer and can you bring in this person? They don't love to do that. But the reason is because it's a collaborative tool, you do need their buy-in and like they need to ask the questions of like, well, what's your infrastructure and all of this stuff. And we spend a lot of time. I mean, the UI is what you see, but our engineers are very dogmatic around like the principles of what we build. We're probably on the lower end of vibe coders than most people these days. Like we use it in certain places to assist us, but like because we're an infrastructure platform, we want to build a robust platform that will work at scale. And we have customers who run hundreds of thousands or millions of API calls, against a Voker. So yeah, I may have lost the script there.
Yeah, we just had like a customer who could probably use a product like yours. They essentially have like an integration that they're looking to build to pass data from one platform to another. And right now, like, I forget what the challenge was, but like basically they need a human in the loop. And to build an integration, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be like, I don't know, $30,000 to $40,000 or something like that. But there's not that much data being passed over. And so I'm like, I bet there's going to be some kind of AI product that comes out that could, instead of building integrations, so you could just, I don't know, use AI agents. Like, do you see a lot of companies, or like a lot of companies choosing AI agents over integrations, or like how does that whole space look like now? Like, is that even a thing, or I don't know if you know?
No, I think it's not a fun answer, but like it depends on the use case. For some use cases, like you explained, it's probably a good fit where you have a human doing something, then the LLM is going to be good. If it's a use case where like, you need to integrate Stripe with some other API platform, like you should just integrate those through code because that's more tightly coupled. But if you have a human there, then that's a place where, it makes sense to have like an AI be a component in that integration. Yeah. But all that to say, like the industry is so early, like the technology is still evolving that like, frankly, a few months or a year from now, I'm not saying that like all engineers are going to be gone personally, but there will be new ways to use LLMs, which is why we really are always adding new models and new features to the platform so that our customers can benefit without having to like keep up with all this new stuff and new ways to use it.
So you're saying like there's some new things popping up. I mean, is there something that that we don't know, or like others that might not know yet? Like, is there something that's exciting on the roadmap? Like, not just for you, but like for LLMs. Like, what are you seeing out there?
I think they do continue to get better at generating code, which is really exciting. That's not like a use case that is super particular to us, but like, I mean, it's useful for us as a business, but it's not super particular to our platform. There's today, again, because there's a lot of hype for good reason around AI. It also is a little maybe misleading where folks think that like any language can be coded. There's a lot of languages that don't have a lot of adoption, like programming languages that don't have a lot of adoption. And so LLMs aren't good at writing code in those languages yet. But over time, like you can improve that. You can train the models up, about these languages. And so that's getting better. Another thing that's exciting is the advances in video and image generation, and then also like computer use, if you've heard of that, which is essentially, like you have the LLM doing actions on your screen, especially in this middle ground where we're transitioning from like traditional software to AI based systems. You sometimes still need someone to go click a mouse somewhere. Like there's not something you can do fully programmatically. And so now that LLMs are able to do that, or starting to be able to, like, that's pretty exciting for automating workflows.
just saw like your recent post about like how you need to kind of like use like a step-by-step approach to
Yeah.
implementing AI. Like, what's some of your advice, like based on what you're seeing? You mentioned, I mean, one of them you just mentioned, which I think resonates with a lot of people, is like you can't just have AI agents do 10, 100 different things. Like you kind of need to follow the
Yeah.
step-by-step process, or like it needs to have like a tight definition of what it needs to execute on. But like, what's some of your advice uh, with the businesses that you work with on how to leverage AI or product like yours correctly so that you actually get some kind of ROI from it?
Yeah. Great question. And I probably sound like a broken record because I talk about this all the time and I post about it, but I believe in it because we've had so many customer, I mean, hundreds now of like anything from sales or discovery or like calls with our internal customers. The companies that are winning and like getting value out of AI are ones who are building, testing, trying things, and then moving on. Like it's this iterative process. The
Mm-hmm.
companies that sit around and say like, well, it's not 100% perfect, even though it's going to save 80% of our cost. It's not 100% perfect for this edge case, which by the way, you could probably solve by plugging in something else to solve that thing. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we're not sure where AI fits into our strategy and we're going to spend another year thinking about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to create a strategy that's not informed by actual experience. And so like going out there and building and trying things is how you learn. And there's a lot of things where people will deploy something and it just doesn't work. Like not that the AI can't do it, but maybe you're making a chatbot to improve upsells and like it just doesn't work for your user flow. Okay, that's fine. As long as you didn't spend 10 months building it, which is what we make, that part fast,
Mm-hmm.
you can test it out and try something else. So like I believe wholeheartedly in that you know, iterative approach. But it probably comes from my analytics background and A/B experimentation.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with it, man. Like we've been like, I mean, mostly like at least for this business, like it's a media thing that we're spinning up.
Mm-hmm.
We use ChatGPT a lot, but
Yeah,
we've created a workflow that automates everything from like research to the questions to creating content out of it to creating distributing content across multiple different platforms. We haven't fully let it
that's
run, but
awesome.
like the next step is to figure out like, okay, where can we plug in agents? Like what you just showed me, I think could be perfect use case for us because we just have this like big Excel file. And the
Mm.
reason you got my email late today is because someone else was supposed to send an email and they forgot. And then I was like, oh, I didn't check that email. So if we can
See, an
get
AI
the,
wouldn't have that issue. Yeah.
yeah. So if we can get that flow going, that's the next step in creating an AI powered media company.
Definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, that's cool. So yeah, is there like something that I haven't asked you about your product that I should have asked you that maybe like spotlights, what else it does that should be beneficial for like other founders, entrepreneurs, builders?
I guess the one thing I haven't mentioned a lot of is we got to see, a decent amount of the product. We're adding new stuff like every day and week, and we have a public change log if you want to, you or any of the viewers want to check it out. But
Hmm.
there's another side that we've realized is really important to the industry right now that we're really staffing up our company for, which is like the service and advising and AI engineering. So there's a lot of companies like once they get past that one or two use case prototype and they start realizing, oh, I could have my operations and my customer support and my marketing team like leverage this tool.
Hmm.
They often want, they start expanding usage. They're deploying 10 Vokers, 20 Vokers across their business. They
Hmm.
then want to get our advice on like what should they be building. Like now they're seeing like the value of these things
Hmm.
and they want to speed up that loop of like, yeah, sure, they can test pretty fast, but if we can tell them like these are things that can do well, or sometimes even for certain enterprise contracts, like we'll dedicate forward deployed engineers to like configure and build Vokers for them. Sure, they can do it themselves, and there are parts that they will, but like
Hmm.
if they really need to hit a deadline, like that's something we'll do. At
Hmm.
first, we didn't really like think that was going to be that important. Like, hey, there's consulting businesses to do that, but we're starting to realize like, oh, we actually have a lot of industry expertise from like all the customer conversations we've had and seeing what works and what doesn't. And so that's a part of the business that's growing a lot. And we're, we enjoy because we are a horizontal platform, which makes it tough to like really explain exactly what we do. And so the more we learn about different industries and different businesses and partner with them as an extension of their team, we can realize, oh, maybe our PDF upload feature worked for this kind of industry, but like legal needs 20,000 pages of upload. Okay, we need to go figure out like how we solve that, because most of our customers so far have only needed like 100-page PDF upload or something like that. So it's great market research for us.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. Like, so what's been like the hardest thing to scaling your product or operation? It sounds like you almost have like this service component. And it's not like in some cases, I mean, obviously working with enterprises can be tricky, but like, is it just hard to get people to, I don't know, go in and get nerdy with this product or geeky or whatever you want to call it? Like, what's been the hardest thing to scaling your product?
I feel like our customers have been really happy with like our service level, the way that we kind of consult with them. We've, like I mentioned before, my co-founder and I have done consulting in past businesses, and as a data science person or analytics person, like you're essentially like an in-house consultant. Infrastructure wise, like we're really happy and our customers are happy with like how well the product runs. I think the biggest challenge from if I'm taking a step back of the business is just, it is my first time starting a company from scratch. And so like figuring out the right place to spend our time when it comes to go to market is tough. Like there's the decision between, do I take all these sales calls with people that, say that they're really excited about AI and they're ready to build? Or do I focus on like making educational content that's going to like do more organic user growth? Or do we reach out to people on LinkedIn, or do we do cold calls? Like that part has been the biggest challenge, just because like that's our gap in, previous expertise. But what's great is like once we get people in the door that are the right ICP and the right customer, like we're seeing them, the product clicks with them like on the demo. And then as long as we can get that multi-threaded approach where they're bringing the stakeholders from different teams on, we see enablement go, through the roof and like usage go through the roof. But if you just have like one user join and they don't have a lot of pull with other folks on the team, and they're just a PM prototyping things, but they can't like prioritize engineers implementing it, then you're not getting things into production. And that's where things start to slow down.
Got it. Yeah. You guys should talk to private equity companies. I feel like they're always trying to rip out the software that already exists in some of these companies that make it cheaper and run it faster and smoother. Or I don't know, or just like leaner.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
What is like one mistake that you think you've made so far, that if you were to start the company over, you'd approach it from a different angle?
Good question. I think about this a lot. I feel like I'll just start with like the first mistake we made. Our original idea came from our own problem. We were at companies that were pretty advanced in building AI systems already, like when LLMs were coming out. And so we saw a big issue around like sort of the QA part of launching AI features, which does feed into this guardrails concept, which has informed some of our product now. But our original idea was more around like, hey, people like need this really complicated engineering heavy like way to QA, agents. And then we went out in the market and we started telling people about it, and they're like, they hadn't put anything in production yet. They don't even know how to get it to production. And so we were kind of like in our own bubble. That's a tough part. I often feel like we're so far behind because every company is coming out with something new and a new LLM every day. But then I step back and I realize, oh, there's other businesses who are still using like physical spreadsheets and, other things like that. And so I think just keeping an eye on where the market is right now, but then also planning for the future is pretty tough. So yeah, that first mistake we made was like assuming everyone was already at the point that we're at. And then we took a step back and said, hey, let's just like help people get AI going rather than like tuning the system to perfection. Like, we have guardrails that get it to 90%, but we shouldn't start at trying to like get them to 100% if they can't even get something live.
So maybe you can like kind of like switch to your like previous roles. Like you guys built like a brand that's doing $100 million in revenue, as I understand. What are some like lessons that you've learned there, like the non-obvious lessons of scaling this company? And it looks like your current product kind of targets e-commerce a little bit, right? Or like, are you working with those companies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
We
nice.
work with companies in e-com. We're starting to see that it's a certain type of e-com company, not to get too
Uh-huh.
much into the weeds, that wants to use us, because if you're just like a basic brand with a basic Shopify storefront, you probably don't have like super complex AI use cases you want to build in house. You have
Mhm.
just a couple automations that you can secure off the Shopify store. So we're leaning more into companies that like have internal engineering teams but no internal like AI and data science teams.
Mhm.
But to answer the question about like previous roles, in my first role at Lowell, I was, employee 10, and I was, in charge of data science and analytics. I was the only one, and slowly we built, out a data science, machine learning, and data engineering team that I had the opportunity to grow, and we built essentially like a day trading engine for marketing budgets. So we ran like 2 million plus a month paid ad budgets that were all profitable. The
Mhm.
biggest positive learning there was like that business, like I said, was bootstrapped. It wasn't VC backed. So everything was about like, hey, how are we actually building a real business? Not like creating some hype and saying we have thousands of users and raising some crazy valuation, but then
Yeah.
like be burning money every month.
Mhm.
And so like figuring out how to scale and grow profitably, it's slower.
Mhm.
It's a bit slower,
Mhm.
but it also is like way more sustainable.
Yeah. And so like now you're in YC, like how's your experience being in YC, by the way?
I'm a skeptical person. I came from a scientific, research background, and
Uh-huh.
frankly, like I'm not super plugged into like the tech and Twitter and all these scenes. Like I, was familiar with YC, respected it, but I wasn't watching every single YC video or anything like that
Mhm.
before we were admitted. And so I was wondering how much of it would be like, smoke and mirrors a bit. I was blown away, like honestly, at the caliber of the other founders, the partners especially, and because you hear a lot about investors and like how they're not useful. The YC partners definitely like have real experience that's really helpful, and like how focused they are on helping you build a real business. I
Mhm.
didn't know it's just going to be about like how do you seem, flashy or something, but actually all their advice is around like focus on users, build revenue and build a product that like has a moat and sustainability. And they really help you just focus on like what matters. I
Mhm.
came into my first, I think one of my headphones died. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
I came into my first like group partner meeting with our group partner, Dalton Caldwell. He's pretty well known at the YC
Uh-huh.
community. And I was asking him kind of like, okay, so I'm thinking like, first we need to figure out like our brand and our logo and all this stuff. And he's like, none of that matters. Like, go get a customer and start having them use your product and see what they like and what they don't like. I was like,
Mhm.
okay. And he's like, and then you need to do it by next week. And I'm like, I just like left my job. Like, I still haven't moved to SF. He's like, figure it out. And so we actually did. Like, we were able to do it. And I think like they push you really hard
Mhm.
for good reason, because
Mhm.
you really do have to move fast to be successful in like a startup.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of people that go through YC, like they say the same thing. It's like, the extreme focus on the customer and making the customer happy is like everything. But like, what are some of the other lessons they've that you've learned there that may have been unnatural to you,
Yeah.
given your previous experience in like a bootstrap company?
One of the things was around the fundraising advice. I had never interacted with VCs. I had interacted with private equity before, and just other like we were considering some mergers and acquisitions at one point in some of the companies that I was working at, and so,
Mhm.
but I hadn't been in the VC world. And I thought YC was going to say like raise as much money as you can, like all these things, because you see these crazy numbers come out of these companies sometimes. But actually, their advice is like, no, like raise as little money as possible, because number one, you want to keep as much equity as you can
Mhm.
to have like optionality in the future, and to give your employees more equity to have options when you're trying to raise future rounds. But
Mhm.
most importantly, because like having the scarcity of cash helps you, and this was a lesson actually that I learned at that first company, right? Like it actually makes you make decisions for the long term and for profitability. And I thought YC would be telling you like raise as much money as possible and hire as many people. They actually are like very much like, don't do that. Like unless you're in an industry like a hardware business or something where you have like 5 years of R&D and you need that money, then you're going to do it. But yeah.
So what's next for your company? I mean, it sounds like you guys, like the customers that you talk to are starting to seem like they like the product a lot. Are you guys raising money now, or like are you guys pretty set?
No, we're pretty set. We're really focused on like continuing to add features to the product that our customers ask for, and then really figuring out like the go to market motion. Like I said, the past couple of months we've definitely unlocked something, and now that the product's in a state where like we're running like, these hundreds of thousands and millions of API calls a month, and we're getting new POCs and new customers signing up every week. We've only been doing that through sales led so far. And so the biggest new thing for us is we've launched our first round of, pricing testing, I'll call it, because we're still figuring out exactly, we're already hearing from customers that they think we're undercharging, which is really surprising to hear that from 3 consecutive folks that just signed up. But if you go to voker.ai/pricing, we're now offering like self-serve plans to help those companies that like, hey, maybe they're not ready to bring like, they don't have 10 AI initiatives that they need done in 3 months. But they want to start learning and they want to deploy 1 or 2 things and then slowly grow into it. So that's like kind of the next phase in our go-to-market journey.
Got it. Yeah, I looked at your pricing page. It looks pretty good. Like I've seen prices all over the place with this AI stuff, and I don't know how they determine it. Like in some cases, there's like a big like sticker shock when I look at it. In your case, looks like good. And recently, have been seeing more and more products where I'm like, how is this so cheap? Someone just talked to me and their price was 10 times higher. So I feel like it's a little bit hard. Like, are the costs of LLMs going down, or like what's
They are definitely in one of our strategic, opinions and bets. I don't like to make a lot of like, I'm not one of those like visionary founders that's saying like, like all these jobs are going to be gone in 2 years. But one thing I feel pretty confident in is like, there's huge investments in energy. There's huge investments in optimizing LLMs and training. The cost is going down, and we believe it'll continue to, just like, computer cost, cloud cost, all of that kind of like over time becomes more of a commodity. So
got it. We're running on time here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any more time, but like
I do have to jump.
Yeah. So in that case, I just want to, I learned a lot today. I'll sign up for your product probably in the next
Amazing.
couple days. I want to test it out. I think it could be useful for us. So I'll take it for a spin. Thank you for coming on the show. We'll get this pushed out to our audience. Hopefully someone reaches out to you, and maybe we'll find you a customer or 2. But thank you for coming today, and we'll be in touch. Yeah.
Thanks so much, David. Appreciate you having me on, and it was a great chat.
Thank you.